One of the problems with our rig is that the pelvis root object can move the entire torso, but it doesn't allow for any offset if I wanted to offset the lower torso area from the chest area. I can easily offset the upper body, but not so easy on the lower body. I suppose I could grab the pelvis root, the hip object from my spine control, but it offers us a degree of flexibility, but not quite enough. What I'm going to do here is just get a polygon cube. I'm going to make a control object to add into this hip area that will allow for a little more control over this torso. A little trick that Bradley Gave was showing at SIGGRAPH at the production challenge was to take all the edges or the desired edges of an object and alt right click extract as curve. Command that's been around for ages but somehow just seemed to slide under the radar. In any event, I'm going to freeze the curve, which I've now got, and delete the cube. And now we have a curve object that works really well for deformations. I can modify the point structure and kind of customize the shape of it. And on top of it, I have the benefit of being able to offset the center pivot, unlike using nulls and implicits. So it's kind of neat to be able to extract curves from hands, for example, to make hand controls, or feet to make feet controls, or even a face if you wanted to make your own face rig. Cool stuff. Anyways, I'm going to take the object in object mode, and I'm going to match its transforms up with my pelvis root. The size is pretty large, so I'm going to scale it down a little bit, and then in Y, and freeze the scaling just to reset it back to 100%. Again, a nice thing that you can do about the objects with points and geometric structure that nulls and implicits don't have. If I rename this object, I'll call this my hips control, so this is now a control object. I'm going to open up my hierarchy here and just make a few changes. I'm going to take the pelvis root and I'm going to drag and drop it, so the whole skeleton is now coming out of my model and becoming a child of my hip control. And all I really need to do under the pelvis root now is to find the chest and spine objects, the chest and hip objects that I've used to build the spine rig. And I'm going to move the chest object under the hips control. So if we zip this up, the pelvis root and the chest bone are now siblings, and the hips control manage both of them. So we have our old unified torso behavior by moving the hips control, and then if we want an offset on that, we can use the pelvis root now to kind of offset our hips from the upper torso. So this object then becomes a keyable parameter in our animatable list. So I'm going to go into the keyable parameters editor and just disable the scaling and enable the rotation and position. Close that down. And of course I'm going to want to move that hips control back under my move all control. And now we can store a new bind pose. Grab the entire character. Store the keyable parameters. Give it our rest pose name, and if we just have a look in the mixers, get rid of the old one, rename, and we're good to go for our Mulcore toolbar. So now we have a little bit more control over our character, a little bit more customization. When you need to hit a certain pose, maybe your attitude for the upper body is exactly where you want it, and all you need to do is a little fix in the hips. You can then go in and just make that subtle change rather than moving the entire character. So hip controls.